So we've been gone for almost 2 months, right? This is meeting after 2 months,
Mhm. I think
right?
so.
So what have we learned so far? We've pretty much covered chapter 1, 2, and 3. There's just one last portion of chapter 3 which is remaining, but we pretty much covered that. And so what we learned, if you remember, just to recall, in chapter 1, it's called Arjun Vishad Yog. That means it's about Arjun's sorrow. Literally, Vishad means sorrow. So it's a chapter on Arjun's sorrow. And I think the main thing that from a Gita lesson standpoint they were trying to say was like, when does a person come to this knowledge? Why does a person come to this knowledge? Because if you recall, Arjun and Krishna, they knew each other for a very long time, right? Krishna was been they've met for many years. All his life, Arjun knew Krishna, but he never looked upon. I mean, he looked upon Krishna as Bhagwan, but he never looked upon Krishna as his teacher. It was always his friend and, supporter and confidant and whatever. And they were very close and so on, but never a teacher pupil. In fact, he probably didn't even know all what Krishna can offer to him. But when he came across a real problem, a sort of a dharam sankat, which he realized that he cannot solve on his own with all his knowledge, with everything, then he turned to Krishna for advice. And that also they showed the process. First, he tried to say, I don't want to fight. I will, not fight. And they kind of described how he made all these things in his mind, his ideas in his mind. He was trying to intellectually rationalize and say why fighting is bad. So he said, fighting say, जो लोग हैं, the husbands will die. When the husbands die, the wives will get corrupted because they have no income. So they will fall on corrupt ways. When the wives fall on corrupt ways, dharma is gone from the family, and the children will not. The main tradition for dharma really is coming from our family. That's the thinking. We learn our values from our family, whether the family teaches them, you know, intentionally or not. That's where we learn our values from. So he's saying if the mother gets to corrupt ways, then there's no chance of dharma to survive. So he gave this very, seemingly very intellectually very fine reason that if the husbands go away, the mothers will fall to bad ways. Mothers will fall to bad ways. The value system of the family will go. Dharma will prevail. So he says by what we are doing, we were saying we are going to get rid of adharma, but actually we are going to cause more adharma by this fight, right? So that suddenly he turned around. Suddenly that became the rationale. And actually that is true for us in a many ways. When we come across situations which are difficult, we find many rational reasons for why we should step away from them. We can convince ourselves, you know. Like even Kiki was mentioning earlier, when we find it hard to change ourselves, we can find a reason and say, hey, Vedant says I'm God already. Why do I need to change myself? Correct? So it's very it's very easy to do this and very normal and very natural to do this. And Arjun was doing that. And he gave a couple other reasons too for why we shouldn't fight. So they showed that process that he went through that. But the thing is, Arjun was too smart. He he was ready for knowledge. So he could see through his own sort of rationalizations and manipulations of his mind. So because he could see through all this, he realized, oh my God, like what am I doing? I really don't know anything. I really don't know what to do. That is my reality. I'm thinking I'll fight. Then I'm thinking I'll not fight. I'm giving all these reasons which are falling flat. Krishna Bhagwan was not influenced by those reasons. He kind of said, what are you talking about? And so they were falling flat to Krishna Bhagwan and falling flat in his own mind also. So then he said, okay, the problem is not dharma, and all that. The problem is, I don't know what to do. I am at a loss. And I need knowledge which is beyond just this, should I fight or should I not fight? Right? So when he had that realization, then he said, I'm going to look for a guru. And luckily for him, the guru was right next to him. So he said, who better as a guru? So he told Krishna, he said, please, make me your shishya. I want to learn. I want to know. Teach me the Shreyas. Shreyas is that highest. Shred hota na Shreshth, like the uncha, sabse bada. So Shreyash is that knowledge which is the highest knowledge. It's not the knowledge about how the world works. It's not the knowledge of politics or the knowledge of, you know, machinery or knowledge of all these things in the world. It's not a material knowledge. It's the highest knowledge, which is a knowledge about me. Who am I? What am I? Right? So he says, teach me that Shreyas, that knowledge. I want that knowledge. And then Krishna Bhagavan realized, he said, yeah, then he smiled. Actually, in the Gita, it says that as if he smiled. And he said, yeah, sure, welcome. you know, वो क्या कहते हैं ना वो शोले में आज आया है ऊंट पहाड़ के नीचे something like that. So okay, good, you've come to the right place, and I'll give you knowledge. So that first chapter is actually it's taking us through this process of showing us how we get to uh, this knowledge and how we ask for it, and we have to actually literally we have to ask for it. We have to find a guru and ask for it, and then suddenly the person who you knew all along is just another, your friend turns around and becomes your guru. And that is what gurus are. They are like, they are just ordinary people till you ask them about this, and then they will, if they know, they will tell you about this, and then you see that this is how knowledge passes. This is how the tradition of knowledge has always been. It has passed from guru to shishya, guru to shishya, guru to shishya, and this is continuing. Okay, so that was chapter 1. Then chapter 2, the actual knowledge started. So Bhagwan, and the way of the knowledge is that it's always been that this is just somehow the tradition that they tell you the meat of it first. They tell you the very meat, sort of an executive summary, and then so that you know what it is that we are talking about, the whole picture. And then with every round, you go into more and more and more detail, so that whatever doubts are there get full. Because if someone tells you the whole picture, you're not going to get it. Absolutely not. Because it's so different. But all the doubts are there, and those doubts get clarified as you get more and more into detail. And this is not a process of a few hours, which happened in the Gita. That is just a way of saying it, that it happened in a few hours. But actually, this is a much longer process where you actually try to understand the teaching and try to internalize the teaching. And the goal is not that I know the teaching, because intellectually knowledge of the teaching is not gyan. That is just a very, it's a very remote knowledge. As Didi was saying, it's far away from us. It is not impacting me. This is not about me. This is not what I want. It becomes gyan when it impacts you directly. When it becomes, it says, Swamiji said, when it becomes part and parcel of you. When you act, when you live this knowledge, then it becomes gyan. And it starts with an intellectual understanding, and then gradually, slowly, it becomes gyan. And what it means by it becomes gyan is not that you suddenly become like something, you got some knowledge in your head. You start behaving differently. You start reacting differently. Your way that you operate in this world becomes different. That's what it means by being a jnani. So really, gyan and karam is not two separate things. They're basically the same thing. Your karam shows your gyan, and your gyan affects your karam. Okay. So what is the knowledge? So from that, so first thing he said was right away. He said, Arjun, there is no cause for sorrow. You're just being being silly by being so full of sorrow. It is more a reflection of your ignorance that you're feeling so much sorrow. This is not. This sorrow is not warranted. There's no need for this sorrow. You are, um, and because you don't know yourself, you don't know the nature of you, the nature of others, and everything else, the nature of this world. You don't know how the nature of good and bad. Even you don't know. You're therefore feeling sorrow. So the answer to your sorrow is knowledge. And then he started to proceed to give him knowledge. So the first, uh, after this, the next shlok, which was really right away, was that he said, neither you nor me nor all these people, they are, you are going to, they are never born and they will never die. So he's trying to say that, I mean, pretty soon in all of this, he said that what you need to understand is that there is something called Atma, which is what you really are. You think you're this body and this mind, but you're not. You're really what you are is Atma. And things like body and mind and all the things in this world, they they are what is called, they change. In other words, they're born, they are created. And anything that is created, anything, regardless, it has to die. You cannot create anything and say that it will not end. That's what the creation is. Creation means that you've put something in a form, you've brought something together into a form, and that form is always changing. There's nothing called constancy in form. So we may not be able to see the change on a day to day level. We may not be able to understand it, but if you look closely, everything is changing. Your body is changing, your mind is changing, your thoughts are coming and going, the environment is changing, there is constant erosion happening, cells are being created and destroyed all the time. There's a constant amount of change which is happening in this world. And he says, knowledge means to understand that this change is a natural process. And your body is also a part and parcel of this world. So it will also change. And it got created, so it will die. There is nothing, there's no, nothing to feel sorrow about it. The body created and the body will die. But he said, every time there is, when you think about this, there is what he calls, this asat buddhi. That means like knowledge of things that are always changing, which are asat. And then there is also sat. There is this atma, which is the unchanging substratum underneath all this changing form. You can't have form without substance. So there is substance, and that substance is atma, and that substance is you. That substance never changes. Why? Because it was never created. It was never created, and therefore it will never die. It just is. Anything that's created will always die. Anything which is not created will not die. So, Atma is something that is always there, which is you, which was never created. In other words, it is outside space and time. And I mean, even now I can tell that I'm telling you this after 1 year also. This is such a difficult concept to comprehend because we can't, our mind, we are used to understanding things as something. And whenever we think about something as something, that thing is in space. That's how we think. And if it's in space, it's in time. It's a thing. If it's in space and time, it has come into existence and it will die. That is how everything is. Now we are talking about something. He's pointing out something, that there is something which never was created, which will never die, which is actually seeing this thing, even, which is even because of which this thing is being experienced. So that is what you are. Now, he said all this, not expecting Arjun to follow right away, but he said, okay, this is what I'm trying to tell you. This is what you need to understand. This is your knowledge which you need to have. When this knowledge that you are something which is beyond space and time, that you are Atma, when this becomes a living reality for you, when you live according to this and you know this for a fact, that's when you are a jnani. That's the purpose of Gita, to take you to this knowledge. But, and therefore, sorry, but meaning I'm saying, but it takes time. So he's saying this right up front. In the second slok of the Gita, he said this. But that's because he wants to tell you where we are going, right? Where you are going. So doesn't matter if you don't get it now. It's too it's too uh,
Abstract.
abstract. It's too
For you.
different. It's too different from everything that we have, the way we think. It's very logical, and I can explain that to you that it's very logical. But that doesn't matter because we don't work with logic. We work with our emotions, with our gut, with how we think, how we feel. And it's very different from how we think, how we feel, very different from our gut. So it's hard to get your hand around it. But this is how he started. Okay. And then he went on from there and said, okay, this is the knowledge. And then he tried to explain a little more. He said how, just like for you, the Dehi inside you, the inner being, the inner dweller in you, you see your body change. You see how you go through childhood, and then from childhood, you go through youth, and then from youth to old age. You can see that happening, right? You see that. Who is seeing? The Dehi is seeing this. Dehi is experiencing this change. But the Dehi is not changing itself. You're the same you. If the Dehi was also changing, then the Dehi will not experience the change. You know the difference between cold-blooded, I mean, because you're all doctors, the cold-blooded and the warm-blooded animals. When you're a warm-blooded animal, then you feel cold and heat because your body needs to be at a constant temperature. When your body is at a constant temperature and the outside temperature is different, you will feel the cold and heat. But a cold-blooded animal, his body temperature also changes along with the outside. So if the outside is also -10 and you're also -10, you're not going to feel any cold or heat because there's no heat transfer happening, right? So you won't feel any cold or heat. So that's what a cold-blooded animal is. They don't feel heat or cold, you know. So how do you feel? How do you feel that I'm getting old? Because something in you is not getting old. Therefore, it can feel that something else is getting old. If you are also getting old and the outside is also getting old, you will never feel the change. So he said, you can feel, your Dehi can feel how from a child to a youth to an adult to whatever, this is happening. You can feel that. Just the same way, just like you're moving from these different stages in life, you will move from one body to another. That's all. The new body, Dehantar Prapti, he calls it, will just happen just like you're moving from one stage in life to another. So he's again trying to explain this to Arjun, trying to say it in simple words that this is how it is. So we just get a new body. And then down the line, he also explains it in the analogy of a dress. Just like when dresses get old, you change it. It doesn't mean that you changed. Your dress has changed. Yet the dress is not serving, the clothes are not serving the purpose that they are meant for. वो फट गए हैं, ठंड आ रही है उनमें से, they are not keeping the heat away. So you wear new clothes. It's the same way that the Dehi inside you finds that the body has gone old, it's not doing its work anymore, you get a new body. So he tries to explain all this in the first half of chapter 2. Okay. Trying his best to kind of get the process started in Arjun's mind. But then he says, because he also says that, he probably realizes that it's not possible for Arjun to get all this information right now, to actually see it. Why? Because if any information transfer has to happen, there are two parts to it. One is the sender of the information, right? And the other is the receiver of the information. You need both. Let's say I am broadcasting information at 97 kilohertz, right? And your mind is tuned to 107 kilohertz. You're not going to hear anything I'm saying. Or if I'm speaking in Chinese and you only know English, you will not hear what I'm saying. So if I'm speaking in Chinese and you have to understand what I'm saying, you first have to study Chinese. There's a certain amount of preparation you have to do to understand Chinese. Then what I'm saying will gradually become, you'll start hearing it and it'll become clearer and clearer and clearer to you. So what Krishna Bhagavan said was, I am giving you all this knowledge, but this knowledge is going to a person who cannot understand it. It's going to a mind who can't understand it. Because this is not the knowledge that you've lived, this is not your lived experience. It's not your lived experience that, that you are immortal, that there is going to be, that there's something called Atma. This is not something which intuitively your mind is ready to accept. Because what is mind ready to accept? It's ready to accept all the things that the way it's seen. Mind, the mind thinks about knowledge as knowledge of something else, something outside. That we are ready to accept. If I tell you about the moon and what is in the moon and all the rocks in the moon, you can accept because you are here, the moon is there, and you are thinking about conceptualizing about something. If I even tell you about your own mind, how your thoughts are coming, how your thoughts are going, that also you can accept because you are there, your mind is distinct from you. It may not be far away, it may be right next to you, but it's distinct from you. You can think about your mind. You can conceptualize, okay, you can form a model in your mind and say, okay, this is how my mind must be. This is what a thought is coming here, the thought is going out. This is how you think. You form models in your mind, you form concepts in your mind, you think about things. That's that always the knowledge is always about something which is other than you. But now it's saying this is about you. You can't form a concept about yourself because who is forming the concept? You. So it's telling you about you. And he's saying that this is not a concept at all. You're not something in space and time. Space and time is only a thought in your mind. It's distinct from you. So the mind is not ready for this. So how does the mind get ready for this? And the mind gets ready from this with Karma Yoga. And there is a science or deep thinking behind this, which Gita is telling us about, or Vedanta tells us about. It says that part of the reason why the mind is not ready for this, there are two things. One is, much as we try to say, my priority, number one priority is to understand this. However much we say, the reality is that our number one priority is not to understand this. Because our number one priority is, I want to be rid of my anxiety right now. Or I want nothing to happen to people I love and care for. I want more money. I want this. I want that. It's yoga shema. That means either it is either it is something that you don't have which you want, that's called yoga, something new, or it is shema, something that you have and you want to protect. You don't want to lose it. That's our priority. And till we can get our mind away from this constant attachment to something that is you don't have, you want it, that's an attachment. You have something, you don't want to lose it, that's another attachment. Till you can get it away from this, you cannot make knowledge your first priority. You can only do lip service to it. That's one. So controlling your desires is very important. The second reason why our mind doesn't get it is because our mind has never felt and realized that its happiness, its own source of happiness, is itself. We've never been in situations, may have been in minor situations. We have always think that our happiness is coming from external objects. We have to actually experience and see, oh my God, I can be happy without that external object. You have to actually experience that, at least for a considerable length of time, to say, yes, there is something here. My mind by itself is happy, even if it's for a short time. I did not need anything else to become happy. That gives you a different kind of intuition. With that experience, you get a new intuition. That new intuition now says, yes, it's true. There is something in the nature of me that is fulfilled, which is already fulfilled. You're open to that thought. And these two things come from Karma Yoga. The mechanism that has been provided by our scriptures, by our um, tradition for doing this is called Karma Yoga. Of course, there could be hundreds of ways to do it. You can find your own way to do it. That's fine. But in from a Vedanta perspective, whatever way you find will be called Karma Yoga. Okay, because Karma Yoga is all encompassing. What will you find? Meditation, actions, bhakti, some sort of Raj Yoga, whatever you do, it's all part and parcel of the preparation of the mind. And in Gita, all of that is bundled into something called Karma Yoga. And Gita talks about all of them. Gita talks about bhakti as well. It talks about meditations, how to do meditation. It talks about karam. It talks about everything. All the different ways that you can try to um, clean up your mind, work on your mind. So it's all called karam, all bundled into Karam Yoga. So therefore, what Bhagavan Krishna tells Arjuna is, your first step is Karam Yoga. Be a Karam Yogi. Now Arjuna keeps asking him questions like, oh, why do I need to do Karam Yoga? You told me I'm already divine. I just need knowledge. I'll just go into the jungle and just try to get this knowledge and forget everything else. And Krishna Bhagavan keeps telling him, no, you're not ready for it. You need to do Karam Yoga. That is your first step. And he praises Karam Yoga a lot. And therefore, in the chapters 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, he keeps bringing up Karam Yoga, keeps praising it, keeps telling Arjun how this is the way to liberation, to salvation. How you need to do this, how people like Raja Janak and others have, through Karam Yoga, uh, achieved salvation, things like that. Okay. So that's how chapter 2 proceeds. And then again in chapter 2, he says that one, he removes some fears from Arjun's mind. He says, don't think that Karam Yoga has to be done, it's all or nothing. Not at all. You can do whatever little you do will be useful. Because Arjun was afraid, he said, what if he gives an example of like a lost small cloud, which is separated from the main herd and it's just lost in the sky. So he said, what if I find kal ko main mar jaunga in the war? Man, I'm neither here nor there. I'm neither with materialistic place nor in Gyan place. I'm just lost in between. And he says, no, that will not happen. He says, whatever knowledge you've gained, you'll start from it in the next janam. He also says that there is no viparit reaction result of Karam Yoga. That means there's no harmful effect. It's not as if you're doing Karam Yoga, then all of a sudden you're going to lose your money and you're going to lose your power tomorrow. Nothing like that. In fact, through Karam Yoga, whatever material things also you're doing, you'll do better. You'll gain even materially through Karam Yoga. It's not the opposite. That okay, because when I Karam Yoga kar diya, my mind is now off my Rajniti, so I've lost my power. It's not like that. So he dispels those fears. And then he talks about ekabuddhi, how you can start thinking or think about it from an ekabuddhi perspective. Make karam yog yo ekabuddhi. He talks about vyavasayatmika buddhi, which is, it's a good idea to plan around things, to see how am I going to do this? Think of it like a profession, like a business. And then he describes how what the central portions of Karam Yoga, which is, you are your whole purpose is to act. You have control over action. So this is an important part of the Gita because Gita says part of your knowledge is to realize that this whole world, you are part of the whole world, is one system. It's an intelligent system, and the system has laws through which it operates. We don't understand all those laws, but they're there. And those laws are what bring results. So a big part of the result is your effort, but equally a big part of the result is things in the system which you have no control over, which you can call happenstance, or they call in Gita or in Vedanta, they call it Daivam. Daivam means, that which is done by the Devas, like luck, things that you don't understand. So he said those are there, and there's you can't understand them, you can't deal with them, you can't handle them. But what you can do and what you shouldn't do is to say, because I can't handle those things, then the result is not in my control, therefore I won't do anything. That is not okay. You have to do the best that you can. And that means you have to focus not on the result, because the result pe focus karoge, then you will be lost. You don't know what really creates a result. You have to focus on the action because they are totally in your control. Action is in your control. So you focus on preparation. So I don't know whether I sent you guys this video, short video shorts that was, I recently came across this from Anika Anisimova's coach, the one who was in the final in US Open, the ladies final. And he said he was describing how the top players, the difference between the players who are not reaching the top and the players who are at the top in women's tennis is that the people who are not at the top, they think about the championship. They feel, oh, I'm motivated, I have to win the cup, I have to win the cup, I have to win the cup. That's my motivation. But the people at the top of tennis, they're motivated by their action. They say, I can really, I don't know anything about winning the cup. I really can't say whether I will win it or not because I don't know how well my opponent will come and play that day. I don't know what the conditions are going to be. I don't know whether it's going to rain or it's going to be sunny or whatever. I don't know whether what my state will be. But what I can do is become the best player that I ever possibly can. So they focus all their attention on things that they can control and zero on things that they can't control. They focus zero attention on whether I will win it or not. But they focus 100% on what they can control. And he says that you have to reach that state to become the best in the world. And he said, I'm very proud of Annika because she's reaching that stage. She was not there earlier. Because if you are to the extent that you're thinking about the result, to that extent, you're not focusing or you're not thinking about the things you can do for your which are in your control. To that extent, the extent you're thinking about the result, to that extent, you're bringing uncertainty, anxiety. But the more you're thinking about what you can do, the more stable your mind is becoming because that is very much in your control. So that's another way to think about this, which is it says you have the adhikar on the actions, meaning you have control on the actions. They're yours, but you have no adhikar on the result. The result is not yours. So understand that and focus on the actions. And that is the way to get your mind to a place where it becomes stable. Because otherwise, what does focus on results means? Focus on desires. I want to become Wimbledon champion. That is what I want to become. No, no, no. Instead of that, say I want to become the best tennis player that I can be. Right? So it's just that's basically what Karma Yoga is. It's saying take away the attention from things that you know are not in your control. There's nothing you can do about them. You know that there are too many factors involved, so there's no point. This just being smart. Instead, pay attention to things that you can control. This is just common sense, in my opinion. But we don't do this. We think that if we take our mind away from the result, our motivation will go. That's not true. Our tension will go. Motivation will be there. And then he explains further in chapter 3 this whole concept of the environment of Ishwar. Ishwar is this whole system of actions and reactions and things happening, everything around us, this whole system. And it says it's all run by laws. And when he says, I'm doing yagna, do puja to the Ishwar, basically what you're doing is you're recognizing this system. You're reminding yourself all the time that there is this system which is in control of things constantly. And that's through acknowledging it and doing puja to it, you're reminding yourself and saying, okay, this is what I control, this is the system. And then also this, which me, is also part and parcel of the system. Okay? So that's chapter 3. And he calls this yagna. He calls looking at every element of the system and saying it's almost like having a relationship with them, talking to them, propitiating them, doing puja to them is a form of recognition, remembrance, acknowledgement, which is a ritual is that kind of a thing. A ritual, which is a yagna, is basically the idea is to remind you. Rituals remind you of certain things. When you're doing rituals, it's just a reminder. Like when somebody dies and you're doing rituals, it's a reminder that death is always there. That all of that thing. Okay. So that was chapter 3. I don't know whether I'm missing anything, but these are the main parts. And then there was also, in the end, in chapter 3, he also said something else. He said, he brought in the concept of, yeah, he did, by the way, he did talk about swadharma, which is you do your duty, your thing, what you think is right for you. A soldier's swadharma is to fight. But you're not a soldier. If you're not a soldier, you don't have to fight. You do your bit. If you're a lawyer, then you do your bit as a lawyer. Don't try to do another person's swadharma. Don't, because you try to do another person's swadharma when you think you can control things. When you think, if I do this, I will control everything. He says, no, no, just do your bit and trust the world to do the right thing. There's a reason, there's a way. It's working all along. It's worked all the time, and it's going to work in the future too. And one thing, it struck me yesterday. I was listening to another Swami who was talking about chapter 4. So in chapter 4, Bhagwan says, Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bharata. You remember this shlok? It's a very famous shlok. Whenever there is a dharma, I will come to this earth. So when there is a dharma, he says, don't worry, I will come to the earth and make it dharma. But you think about it, I was just thinking, when there is dharma, then also he comes and makes it a dharma. Like if all you had was dharma, Bhagwan coming and doing dharma, why should there be a dharma in the first place? He's come 5 times. You think he's ineffective? He can't do a dharma on a sustained basis. But this is so when we see a dharma also in front of us, when we see things going wrong, we don't need to panic. We don't need to say, I need to do something. If you think this is your job is to do the right thing, do your right thing. But you don't have to panic. Because this dharma and the dharma is part and parcel of the world. When God says, I come and do dharma and take care of the dharma, from a Vedanta perspective, that means the system takes care of bringing it back to equilibrium. So either way. Anyway, so the last thing I want to tell you about chapter 3 was, um, he said that the one thing you shouldn't do, this is called Loka Sangraha. He said one thing you shouldn't do is to upset people through your knowledge. In other words, if someone is not ready for this knowledge, they think And you can see they're not ready. You don't have to give them this knowledge because that may upset them. That may take them off their path, the path that they are going on, which is a great path. It's a fine path. It's the path which you also went on. Everybody goes on that path. They are finding their own way into this world. They are being guided by Ishwar, just like you were being guided by Ishwar. You don't have to think, oh no, it's my job to enforce this knowledge, because you may actually just unnecessarily obstruct their path. When they need the knowledge, they'll come. So that is another thing. And he was saying, like he was asking Krishna Bhagwan, why are you working? Why do you work? Like you are, the chapter 4 mein aayega. He says, I work for Lok Sangraha. I work for Lok Kalyan. I don't have to. I just do it because, that's my job. I just do it. I do something which is good for people. Anyway, so this was 1, 2, 3 summary of chapters 1 and 2 and 3. Okay. Anything? I mean, we are out of time now.
So, will you be going through chapter 3
Done.
at
We've
all?
already gone through chapter 3, Bibi.
Yeah. What I mean is like the shlokas and all that.
No, I don't intend to.
Okay.
Do you want to?
No, I just asked.
I think the important shlokas, really, chapter 2 has some good important shlokas we went through. Chapter 4 has some shlokas too, which I think it'll be nice to go through. I'll just point out, if you want, one or two of them, 2, 3 of them.
Yeah. Like for chapter 3 for Karam Yoga, can you point out some important shlokas?
Sure, I will.
Okay.
Yeah, next time we can do that.
Yeah.
But I think I want to move on now to 4.
Okay.
Okay.
In chapter 4, I got to make a note there.
Okay.
So that 4 is about Gyan Karam Sannyas, which is, just most further down this road that we've been traveling on Karam Yoga, right? Where he said Ishwar Arpan. Then chapter 3, he talked about how this environment, the whole thing is Ishwar. How you should do yagna, recognize the devas and devtas in this world. How Ishwar Arpan means Arpan to this world. Everybody is Ishwar. If I do something for you, I'm doing something for Ishwar. If you have that sort of an attitude, that is Karam Yoga. And then chapter 4, he goes further.
Chapter 4. Put a note on your start, the date, start next week. That's it, start.
Okay. All right. Anything?
Yes.
समझ आया था कि नहीं? सो गए सारे? It's late for you, yaar. I mean, it's 10:40. मैं तो यही अपने friends को भी कह रहा था last time that it's not that I was in India. I remember I used to get so sleepy by 10:40. Maybe you guys are used to sleeping late.
No, you have a jet lag that time. No?
Oh, okay. Yeah, maybe. Huh?
Do you feel sleepy at 10:40 in America?
Depends.
Yeah, we sleep early.
Okay. I couldn't understand.
She said, do you feel sleepy at 10:40 even in America?
Oh, yeah, I do. Well, maybe 11, maybe not 10:40.
But do you know how you said, like, don't give people knowledge unless they ask for it? But do you think that's true even of Karma Yoga? Like, don't you think like some of this stuff will help our kids?
You
That's
make
the
your own
Karma Yoga
judgment
part,
there.
not.
I think he was talking not about Karam Yoga as such. He was talking about, you are Atma and things like that. Or about that. Because that can be very confusing.
Yeah.
It can be very confusing to say you are not responsible for.
No. Yeah.
I mean, this is just he's saying, just use your judgment.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so next
right.
session
in 2
2
weeks. In 2 weeks, okay? All right.
Okay.
Bye, everyone.
All right, bye. Billu, will you stay for a minute?